Okay, so today we are joined with Shelley Renee, and she's going to talk about our process on how to make your practice more peaceful, productive, and profitable. And you can go to Deals for Dentists and check out Shelley's promo offer, which is get a free complimentary revenue reveal and growth report. And this is for Dentrix, EagleSoft, or Open Dental users. She also has some self-guided learning courses and a 3-month Kickstart coaching program. So, how are you, Shelley? Good to see you again.
Excellent to see you. Doing well
So,
over here.
Shelley, you came to my office a few years ago and really helped us out. I want to first start with the revenue reveal. Can you explain what exactly that is?
Yes, what this is taking a slice of 4 years of practice data, and we'll have a conversation through the eyes of a coach. I'll tell you where I'm seeing money left sitting on the table, and then I'll show you how to get it. Very often, we're so busy in our operatories that we're just totally missing. Our practices are turning like a sieve and things are just sliding through the cracks that we're unaware of. So I'll teach the team where it is and how to make it more effective so that we're not losing so much revenue in the practices.
So it's there. It's just a matter of finding it.
Absolutely. That's the point. Honestly, if not another new patient came through the door, there's usually about 30% more increase that's there already,
Hmm.
just lost due to inefficiencies or just simply not being aware of what's sitting there.
Now, can you do this for all types of practices? The solo practitioner, the multi-specialty practice, practices with multiple locations. Can you do this for any
Absolutely.
type of practice?
Absolutely. General, pedo, um, multi-location, absolutely.
And so, how long have you been doing? Do you consider yourself a coach or consultant? What do you call yourself?
Interesting. I always went by consultant. Recently, I've been going through training level for coaching on building teams,
Hmm.
creating a shared purpose, and how to get the teams to work together to take the practice to a whole different level. So, through that, I have switched to more coaching terminology
Hmm.
as I just assist the teams to find and co create what they're looking for.
And how long have you been doing this? And how did you first
Oh
get
my
involved
God.
in dentistry?
Long story. I'll give you the short version. Actually, I was a computer programmer going to college, and I also babysat for a dentist. And he was tough on the team, really tough. And he'd call me to see where I was in between classes, and he'd give me at the time Linda Miles cassette tapes and Dick Barnes, and he's like, listen to these and come in and help me out. And I actually loved the dental practice, loved what we could do with his practice, and I never went back to programming computers. Fast forward, and a few years, I ended up marrying a dentist, moving here to New York. We have a practice. So that was my learning ground. It was
Hmm.
excellent where I could put into play and practice and actually live what life is like. So when anyone comes across my training, it is not book knowledge. It is absolutely not. It is the school of hard knocks. It's been learned from being in that seat. So I can really empathize with what the team members are going through and owners for sure.
So I think one of the key takeaways here is that babysitting will get you a job and maybe a different career path. Um, so
Exactly.
I wanted to go back to you said the term coach. Um, is onboarding the staff and being a good coach for the staff and the dentist being a good leader, is that one of the most important things in being a successful practice?
Seriously, a practice could. figure it out working as a group, but their level of achievement would never be as high as if they could come together as a team, because
Mhm.
that way they can achieve so much more. An old way is like a hub and a spoke. The owner's the leader, and he's sending the orders down through all the different departments.
Mhm.
Today, teams are operating so much differently. You don't have time for them to norming, storming, high performing. We need them operating immediately. So these days, when we work with a team, they create a shared purpose and
Mhm.
they develop it together. And the doctor, the owner, can step back and give those team members the space, the guidelines, the training, the benchmark, and let them run. Give them their thoughts back and give them the ability to do their job. The relief on the owner is tremendous.
Mhm.
So that you can know that your team has your back, that they're all pulling in the same direction. It is an amazing thing.
So, do you not, or as I guess every practice is different, but do you not recommend like having department heads of each department, and are you more of like a cross training? Um, Everyone kind of knows their role, and or other people's roles. What do you usually recommend, or is it totally different for every practice?
You're right. It's different for each practice, and it's what will help them to tick the best. What
Mm-hmm.
is it going to be? Do they want that head? Do they want the freedom to run it themselves as long as they're delivering the benchmarks that you have requested? Do you need that? Um, Depends on the size of the practice. It depends on their communication structure, how well they're talking amongst themselves, and how well they're meeting the patient's needs or whatever the
Now,
owner objective is.
when you say benchmarks, are these job descriptions and accountability for each staff member, or are you talking about financial goals and benchmarks financially for the practice, or both?
All the above.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely clarity. I think I might have shared with you how important it is to get clear. Clarity is the greatest strength you can have in an organization. I think I shared one time the difference between a brick and a glass.
Mm-hmm.
Same ingredients, like I find in dental practices, made up of the same departments, the same skills, but what they do with it, how its process works, is what brings the difference. So we'll look at the process that's happening in that team and we'll get a different result. Brick and glass, same ingredients, sand, totally different outcome. We can have that with a dental practice. You have doctors, hygienists, you have your business team up front. Same ingredients, but the difference is outstanding from one office to another in the results they achieve. It's
So
fascinating.
you create clarity. Is this through really good job descriptions and accountability and training? Is this and I've heard you mention the word unburden many times, by creating these clear roles and kind of systems. It unburdens the practice from the unnecessary stress. Did I say that right?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely believe that what we're seeing in practices is there's a lot of hand-me-down information that was probably really relevant back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But this person who's worked there for X amount of years taught the new people this information, who then there's like this legacy of information that's passed down that doesn't actually serve us well in this time period. So a lot of times teams are carrying extra workload that's not necessary. So it's so important to me that I size up what's happening, see how we can unburden them. How can we take some of these steps off their plates? A very, very good example that actually we worked on with your team is what happens at the check-in and check-out. Very often, if that focus at those two stations falls behind, or the team member in those seats doesn't understand fully the steps that they must take, the team actually adds to their workload. I can't tell you how often I see teams doing unnecessary work
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't take care of the check-in and check-out properly.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I reached out to you. Is the practice was doing well, but I felt like there was just something missing. The staff was stressed. We have a large staff. We're a busy office, 9 operatories, and pretty busy. Um, but it just didn't seem efficient. The practice has been around since 1974. A lot of the staff has been there since before I was there. So you're right. A lot of these inherited tasks from a much older or time, a long time ago, that were just handed down, are out of date, and they just created more work for each member. The staff was stressed, which is not good for the culture. It's not, stress is not good for anyone. Patients can sense
Absolutely.
it. The other staff members can sense it. It's not good for culture. And ultimately, it makes for a more stressful doctor. And you want to go to work and you want to be happy, and you don't want to be as stressed. So having someone like yourself come in from the outside and create some new systems that can create more, in a more efficient practice, is a game changer. But you have to, I think that the staff has to be on board, and getting them on board is can be a difficult situation, because I know, like in my office, um, change can be difficult for people, and people fear change, even though it's for the better. You have to really explain the why and get them on board, so that it ultimately will make them less stressed and more efficient.
Exactly. Well, if you mention to a team member, how about we lighten your load? Watch their eyes perk up.
Mm-hmm.
How about we get it so that you do not have to be chasing patients for payment? Are you happy making these collection calls? How about if we can take that off your plate?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be worth it to you? Those are my famous lines. Would it be worth it to you to learn this, knowing that you could give up sending statements, give up chasing patients for payment? Would it be worth it? I'm going to tell you that they say yes. And they're happy. They're so much happier just to lighten that load, to simplify their steps so they have the patient rhythm down better. But you know who benefits? The owner as
Sure.
well, because the payroll is a lot lighter.
Mm-hmm.
They're not staying hours after the patient leaves. They're not coming in extra days on Fridays or the weekend to catch up the work that should have been done when the patient was standing in the building. Big difference.
So I feel like nowadays I always have to have the follow up question about, what about post COVID world? How have these teachings of yours changed in the post COVID era?
Actually, the systems themselves have not changed. They've become even of greater importance to be effective and efficient.
Mm-hmm.
What has changed is my delivery methods and delivery style. With teams, instead of coming in um, and doing more on site, we're doing more micro lessons by
Mm-hmm.
Zoom and by department. So that's where we're at right now. We have some more online learning tools. We have Zoom trainings. Um, so we've just shifted and pivoted. But honestly, if actually never before in history have we needed to unburden a team, they now have so many more steps. So
Mm-hmm.
something has to give somewhere. Many of our team currently, the phone volume is so extremely high with all the extra screenings, trying to get the patient base back in to fill up the fall schedule. We've had to pivot and learn different ways of communicating with patients to lighten that phone load. Because realize if they're just fielding calls all day, that means that your practice accelerators aren't getting worked. Your recare, your insurance aging, your AR, your treatment acceptance, how are they going to get that all important follow up done
Mm-hmm.
if they're on overload right this second?
If they're too busy on the phone trying to fill the schedule with these patients that haven't been in since the pre quarantine. Um, Now, I've heard you mention the term superset. Can you explain what supersetting your practice means?
Oh, that's right. I'm glad you brought that up. Well, it's similar to working out with a fitness coach.
Mm-hmm.
You have a trainer, they don't just have you work one body part. You're doing a movement that involves several muscles at the same time. I thought, geez, we should be doing this with our teams. Why is everything so siloed and isolated? Why can't a team member do something that involves multiple systems? And actually, one of the best examples is the check in and check out. Um, I actually reversed the process of how most teams are operating. So we make sure that when a patient arrives, we take care of today's money.
Mm-hmm.
When the patient leaves, the team member goes over all the financials for the next visit. So a complete reverse, but it's done seamlessly. The team is giving the verbal skills. We take them on baby steps, how to turn that around. By doing this correctly, and we don't have time to get into it now, but correctly done, you can eliminate statements. If you eliminate statements, you eliminate the AR. That
Mm-hmm.
automatically goes away. You maintain retention. So all those things happen through one system. So that's why I call it a superset. That's why I spend so much time with teams on what happens at that exit and entrance. Because if the ball drops there, I'm going to tell you right now, you're adding more payroll, more time because they need to work in the back,
Mm-hmm.
cleaning up the mess.
So essentially, the with the check in and check out process, you're getting more done. You're working the biceps, the lats, the triceps. You're I mean, I know because I'm pretty ripped, as you can tell. Um, but
Absolutely.
so you're getting more done in that time. So you're within the check-in. You said, just to recap, there you're handling today. So Mr. Johnson, you're here today for a crown, and you collect the copay. And then when they're done, when they're exiting, then you're working on their next appointment or their next follow-up appointments, whether it's the crown insert or other restorative work or their next hygiene appointment. Am I getting that right?
Close, very, very close. It's pretty good. There's
Yep.
multiple things that the team would have little check marks that they make
Mm-hmm.
sure before that patient leaves, they don't leave the building unscheduled.
Mm-hmm.
And we have checks in place to follow up on that. But it's not just that. They are going to have the conversation with the patient about the treatment needed, make sure it gets booked, but no
Mm-hmm.
one's allowed to book until you've had the financial conversation. So then the discussion is documented and the patient is aware on their way in for that appointment, it'll be taken care of. But that's just a sliver of what we're
Mm-hmm.
cleaning up. That's just a sliver. There's so much more that cleans up the patient record so that we're not chasing them because the mail is returning to us. There's quite a few little things we can clean up right there.
So one of the things that you really helped us out was we collected credit cards on file. And pre-COVID, we didn't quite get it together yet, and we thought it was going to be a long process to really try to make patients comfortable leaving their credit card on file, even though they have their credit card on, on Amazon and Netflix.
Exactly.
But during the post-COVID era, patients really have been on board with keeping their credit card on file. When you go to the grocery store, you go to pick up your pizza. I don't want to hand my credit card to the or touch the terminal. So we we keep everything on file, and it's really worked out. Um, and Also, the other thing that may be slightly different with our practice post COVID is and I'm not sure how you would handle this with your check in, check out process, but we don't really have a check in and check out anymore. Our parking lot's the waiting room. We have the patient come in, we bring them right to the operatory, um, we do the treatment, and then they leave. So everything is handled either before, or after. So they're kind of in and out. So for us, it's a bit different with the whole check-in and check-out process. Have you found a lot of offices are doing that as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the Northeast,
Mm-hmm.
definitely in the Northeast, the parking lot is the reception area, which is why the phone volume is so over the top for our
Yep.
teams right this second. They're on the phone with these members. Depending on the level of technology in these practices, whether or not they can get a lot of the screening forms
Mm-hmm.
signed electronically, if they can do more texting, emailing the forms, that's definitely helping. But in a sense, you still have your very clear what happens when the patient arrives, check in, even though they're in
Mm-hmm.
the waiting room to the operatory, the parking lot to the operatory. There are some very clear steps that should never be dropped, or it'll add to the hours and the labor and the stress of the systems. You mentioned the credit card on file. Again, just so our listeners know, this is not stored in your computer at
Mm-hmm.
all, at all.
Correct.
And it is not, some people are thinking, oh, a card for a payment and the team is hitting the card. No, it is not that either. So I am a big believer in short menus, either or. So Mrs. Jones, we could take your portion today, or better yet, we can hold a credit card on file in a vault for the actual after insurance. So that way, these teams that I work with, they have so many cards on file. What does that get the team? They're not spending money trying to figure the copay inaccurately,
Mm-hmm.
which is 90% of the time, right? So you've saved a ton of time there. You don't need to send statements anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
done. So now you've saved up hours of labor here. So when the insurance check comes in, the team member enters it into the ledger and hits the card on file for the remaining difference. Done. Done.
Mm-hmm.
The patient walks in and out. It's way back to like days in the 80s where you weren't worrying so much.
Yep.
I love it. The teams love it.
Now, have you found that because of COVID, more offices are going either out of network or trying to push more for fee for service or dropping some PPOs?
Yes, all of the above. So definitely, I'm working with basically all my practices right now are evaluating their PPO participation. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of them do not have the same level capacity that they had pre-COVID. It's either they're short team members, not all the hygiene department came back, not all the doctors came back, or someone into early retirement. So now they have this base without the ability to take care of it. So, like never before in our history, we've been able to sort, triage
Mm-hmm.
patients. So, the teams aren't just calling in anybody, they are calling in the sickest patient, the ones with the most disease in their mouth. So it's not just ordinary recare. They're calling in the ones that have perio, that have undone treatment, so that we can be efficient. That's one thing. The other thing is, with extended times, we're looking at, can you afford to participate with this insurance anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Can you afford to? What could we do with verbal skills? So we're pretty far down the road right now with several teams and walking them out of a certain amount of plans. But we do this over a long time span to retain, to personally talk to the patients, not send a cold letter. We're going to personally have a discussion. We're going to personally clean up their treatment now as much as possible before we take this step. So it's been an interesting process, and the patients are appreciative.
So that's interesting that you say that. Having that conversation with that patient and explaining why you're going out of network, and especially a long, I feel like a long time patient, because you have that rapport, they're going to stay. But for a somewhat new patient that found you because either it was because of their insurance company, or maybe through a friend, or Google, doesn't quite have that rapport with you yet. And if you go out of network, you may lose them. But if you have that conversation with them and explain, why, and we would never sacrifice quality of treatment because of insurance, and some insurance companies are trying to dictate your treatment. And if you just explain the why, then maybe your attrition will be less. So I think that's a really good point. So the 3 Ps. What are the 3 Ps? Peaceful, productive, and profitable. That sounds amazing. How do I get
Of
there?
all these, exactly, call me. Of all these years with our own practice, working with all the other dentists, I keep hearing that similar theme. They either want attention to the peacefulness, the culture of the practice, or they need their profitability. They need to examine their margins. So that's why it's peaceful, productive, and productive means a lot to me, because if I can get the team working on processes that matter versus busyness. So drop the nonsense, work on what matters, and you will get the profitability you want and a peaceful practice. It goes together.
So you really need to have the right systems in place, and putting the staff in the right position to be successful, and creating a happy team. A happy team makes a happy doctor. So I wanted to also ask you about, do you work with urban, rural, and suburban practices? Is it all over the board?
I'm all over the board. I grew up in the deep woods of northern Maine. I live here upstate New York, but I have seen quite a bit in dentistry. So
I think you just got a package. I saw. I think that was the Amazon delivery guy back there. But
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Now, have you noticed any changes because of COVID, urban versus rural and suburban?
Big. The country folks up here, all of the city patients tend to be up here looking for dentists, and my Boston doctors, the downtown Boston area, I'm feeling badly for them, because a lot of people have chosen to go work from home. They pulled back out of the city area. So we are seeing in the city here in New York and in Boston, that's all I can speak for right now, we are seeing reduced numbers. The offices that are working there are hoping that September, maybe they're going to come back once school's back in place. I haven't heard anything yet. So we've got a couple weeks into September. So I am interested in seeing how that's going to work.
Yeah, just like the real estate market, everyone's moving out of the city, and they're going to the burbs. And the real estate market is so hot where we are. And I imagine that's could be the same for patients there. First, they're moving out of the city, and second, they're working from home, which actually has been one of the silver linings of COVID is that I now ask a patient, I'm like, "Can you come in Thursday at 3 o'clock?" And they're like, "Sure, I work from home. I can
Come
come
in.
in." Um,
Exactly.
so that's actually been kind of nice. And I wanted to mention, so you kind of said basically taking control over your schedule with those better plans with those patients that are going to create more profit for the practice. The better either fee for service patients or PPO, better paying, and patients that need a lot of work. That is that really the goal here is to get those better quality or patients that need more work done, the sickest, to get them in first.
So you got to understand that my goal is what the owner wants.
Mm-hmm.
Some owners choose to have volume and associates working for them. Other owners tell me, Shelley, listen, get the stress level down. I don't
Yeah.
want to have more team members. I don't want to buy more supplies. I don't want to expand my operatories. I'm at capacity. And I
Mm-hmm.
say, excellent, because now you can be strategic. Okay, we have X amount of patients. We have this many spots available for hygiene. Actually, if your listeners want, reach out to me. I can help them figure out how much hygiene capacity, how many days of hygiene should they be having,
Mm-hmm.
if all systems are in place. That's interesting conversation, because then we can go back and look at your insurance participation. We can
Mm-hmm.
look at your break even numbers, and then determine, okay, you can work with this plan, this plan, and this plan, but these two, let's look at doing something different here.
I think those break even numbers are so important right now. You know that our chair time is down. Our we're seeing less patients a day. We have the staggered schedule. It's more important than ever to know your numbers and those break even points. You know, our staff is pretty much our entire staff came back. Um, our wages are the same. We haven't dropped anyone's wages. So our and all the PPE. So our overhead is up. Our wages are the same, and our profitability is down because we just can't see as many patients. So you got to know your numbers and what your break even points are.
Correct. It's numbers, numbers, numbers. And when I say numbers, how many people are attached to this plan? Where are the write-offs on this plan? Let's look at your cash burn compared to your, I have a sheet that I can help you break out your total cash burn, your true overhead, your doctor compensation that you're taking home. What should your production be per day, per month, per week, per year? Where should your target be?
Mm-hmm.
Some practices, I just looked at a revenue reveal for a team from down south. Usually I work with a lot of Northeast, down south, and the numbers of their full fee, they're only collecting about 60% of the full fee due to write-offs. So
Mm-hmm.
that's staggering. That's scary to me. And then of that, the team was only collecting a percentage. So where would I start with that team? Right there. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
examine those write-offs. We're going to take a long, hard look at, is this really necessary?
Yeah, that's realistically your biggest overhead is if you're heavy PPO, you've connected with this insurance company for that volume discount. You're getting a volume of patients, but at a discount, and you have to play by their fees and their rules. So if you're at a capacity issue because of especially now because of Corona, then you really have to take a hard look at these plans and do you start A, can you renegotiate, and B, can you start dropping some of these plans? Um,
Some of the owners I talk to, they're so savvy with their stocks and bonds and knowing how to allocate their savings. But I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you have to think of your insurance plans like a
Yeah.
portfolio.
Sure.
How many patients are you going to work with in this plan? How many patients in this plan can we be strategic and go to this plan that reimburses you better, that have higher fees? Can we attract more patients from that plan? Can we attract more fee for service patients? I'm always a big fan of in-house savings plan, but it's not enough to just get it. You need to actively seek out these patients. You can't sit here and wait for them to call. So there's all kinds of things that you can work on. But if ever there was a time when strategy works, it's right this moment.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time ever, owners are really, really listening.
Yep.
You know, for
'Cause
you have 10 seats for every 100 patients sitting there. Who gets those 10 spots? You can be incredibly strategic right now.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of we have an in-house membership plan, and it's huge. And we have had some patients that either they lost their job because of COVID and now they don't have insurance, um, or a lot of patients have retired, or just in general, there's like 50% of the public doesn't have dental insurance. So
Exactly.
having an in-house membership plan has been really successful. Um, but you need to get out there and promote it, and let people know that you have it, you offer it. It's reaching out to maybe small businesses, and letting them know that you have it, or just telling your patients that, if you know anyone that has, any of your friends or family that don't have insurance, that we offer this plan. Um, so now,
Simply your team, if a patient says, oh, I need to pass on this cleaning, I don't have insurance, or I need to hold off on this treatment, that's definitely when I whip out the idea of the in-house savings plan.
yeah,
Yeah, and I find that, and I could go on a rant about this
No,
for hours
hours about the importance of educating the patient on why they need that treatment and how important it is, and it's not going to get better by just ignoring it. So when patients say that they're out of their annual maximum and they can't do the treatment because of their insurance is out, well, you really need to educate them on why they need to get that treatment done, and that, even though they're out of insurance, they should still do it, and need to get it done. But
Yeah.
for patients, the patients that don't have insurance, that's a huge barrier. So having a plan to offer them is a great thing to have.
Yes, for sure.
So when would be a good time to call Shelley Renee? Are you helping new practice owners? Are you helping, owners that are going through a midlife crisis like I was? Are you helping, let's say, I'm 65 and I have a 5-year plan to retire? Are you helping everyone?
Those are the most exciting ones. I just this week worked with someone who said, Shelley, I want my 5-year plan. So I connected them with someone, so we did an early evaluation just for the heck of it, just so we kind of have a sense. And now we are on a mission over the next couple of years. They won't need my help all those years. Trust me. Get in, teach the systems, and the team can run with it. So we're going to see how she can keep more of this income. She can have a higher, we're going to get her value way up over the next couple of years. And it does take a good amount of time. You definitely want to make sure you're looking at 5 years out to get all of your ducks in a row for sure. So I love working with these teams. I have many new doctors that we're just starting out the patient base the way the doctor wants. We're setting up the team with tight systems early on, so they're not doing such a cleanup job. And then there are other teams that have inherited their knowledge passed down over generations. So a father and then his son took over the practice, and there's this inherited pool of knowledge that is very dated, that needs to be re-examined, and a lot of that thinking has to be let go. because
That
often
was
today,
my situation.
yeah, we need to
Yep.
be lean and mean. We need to streamline. I'm not saying get rid of people. Get rid of these extra tasks.
Hmm.
There's just too much that is unnecessary, and let's redirect the team now. Let's lighten it up. Let's be more agile with our teams. Let's get them moving.
Now, has that 5-year plan changed for a lot of people because of COVID? Is it now like a 2-year plan or a 1-year plan, or some baby boomers just saying, forget it, I'm out of here?
This person that came to me with a 5-year plan, she's in her 40s.
Hmm.
She got a 5-year plan, has several practices. That's her choice. So there are people in their 60s, people in their 70s. It's all over the place. It's really, what do you want
Yep.
to happen? Do you want your life now to be more bearable? Do you need more margin? Or are you looking to grow and somebody else hold the handpiece? Either way, there's a common ground. It's just get that system tight. Put an actual system in.
Do you find that it is such a easier process when, and this is a new practice owner and they're starting from scratch, that they set these systems right from the get-go? Is that an easier coaching process for you?
Easier, I would say different. It depends on the doctor, the owner. Early on, it might not make as much sense because they haven't felt any pain from a team
Mm-hmm. True.
running loose with no goals. So when you try to stress the importance of this and that the owner upholding the standard with the team, it doesn't have as much weight or meaning as a doctor who's practiced for several years and we're doing cleanup on the team. So they knew what it could be and how it was. And they're more motivated to keep the standards high. So
Yep.
it's a different, but of course they have team mindsets that we have to overcome that have been ingrained for years. So it's two different ends of the spectrum, but with any motivation, with the right determination, it's all possible, really.
Yeah, I imagine a new practice owner, they just want to be busy and get that office up and running and have patients in the chair, which is so true, especially nowadays. And you're coming out with so many loans, and you just want to start um, becoming a profitable practice. But there's if you start letting the systems, or if you don't have any systems, and or you let things get out of hand, and the staff becomes burdened, then it's so much easier if you can just get the systems in place right from the start.
From the get-go,
Yeah.
that the patients are used to your style, they're used to how you operate. It works. When you're saying this, it makes me smile because I started with the doctor from scratch, 0
Hmm.
patients, and he texts me periodically. He texted me in the middle of COVID, and we had already. He's so honest. He shares, Shelley, I wish I would have listened about not signing up with all these plans
Yep.
way back in the day when I started. And then recently, in the middle of COVID, it was probably April or May, he had texted me and he said, I can't stop smiling because I'm so far ahead of the game. Because before COVID hit, we had started walking him out of about 4 or 5 plans. This was before COVID.
Hmm.
And the patient base stayed because we were
Oh,
taking
that's
our
great.
time. We were doing this over like a 12-month time period with the
Yep.
team. It was this very gentle approach that we take, very loving, retention oriented. And he was texting me just smiling at how glad we got to work on this.
So by doing that with that gentle approach, and I'm assuming that means you're having that conversation with the patient, explaining why, and having that kind of that heart to heart talk with the patient instead of just sending a cold email. Is the attrition rate so much less when you do it that way?
Well, it's you're talking about the patient. I'm going to tell you a secret. The problem is the team's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the doctors are like, give the team the verbal skills. We cannot do this until the team is convinced that this is going to be better for the patient. So if the team member has seeds of doubt that this is terrible, this is horrible, I don't want the patients to experience this, it is going to come out in their conversations on the phone when they're booking the patients. And the team that does well with retention, it's the ones that the team mindset is all on board. Then it rolls out smoothly and the patient's acceptance rate is way high. Big difference on it. Definitely, so much of coaching is the team's mindset, their mindset around asking for money, their mindset around being in network or out of network. Spend time on that before we teach a system ever.
So you're when you were saying that 12-month kind of that gentle period, that involves getting the staff on board, going over conversational skills, and getting them on board to understand why we're doing this. Then from there, they're gonna carry that over to the patient.
Exactly right. We spent a long time. They mapped out for me all the reasons. I had them come up with words that resonated with them. With what would they feel comfortable saying? What could they stand behind and not feel like they were telling lies? So it's interesting, the mindset of the team feel like we have to tell them we're out of network. We have to tell them this. We have to tell them that. We have to tell them. And they basically are pushing the patient away.
Right.
Whereas I teach them words that are truthful and honest, but attract the patient instead of repel. So instead of everything being no, 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 it's with us, you have more choices. With us, you still get your full benefit, your 1,500 allowance. With us, you have unrestricted. We're not under those guidelines. With us, you have. So the team absorbs that over time, and then we do a timeline. When will we talk to patients? Who will? And interestingly enough, we use the hygiene chair, since the hygienist has more time than anybody in the practice with the patients. So we spend a lot of time with this patient, with conversations. What could we do before this step? And you have this many months, we can clean up your chart, clean up your care. We time it gently. It's been fascinating. It has been great, but we structure it with the team. Like, at what stage will we send the letter to the insurance company? At what stage will we do this? We do a map of the timeline. We figure it out together as a team.
Well, talk about unburdening the staff. Going out of network must be such a relief to do that. All that unnecessary, dealing with the insurance companies is must be so nice. So let's see. Now, is there anything else you wanted to add that I didn't ask you, or any other nuggets or words of wisdom that you want to tell those dentists out there that you can help them?
Dentistry does not have to be as complicated as it seems right now. We can tone it down here. If you think about it, we've got too many things flying out there in our brains that are complicating us. There's three main legs to your practice. You have your production bucket, your collection bucket, your retention, what you retain for patients, what you retain for team. And there's little sections under each of that. But getting it balanced and getting it to where you can function as a human being is the name of the game. It's not competing with anybody else. It's not having to live under this burden. It's not. We got to figure out what it should look like for you and then get it there. Too many doctors come out of school and they just put their name on the sign, throw up the website, and the practice becomes what it becomes. No one's hiding the ship. Nobody's
Right.
saying this is not how I want to practice. I don't want to see people this many patients in a day. I don't want to be participating with this. I don't want a team this size. So change it. We can change it, but it takes steps moving forward. But everything's fixable. And you can't simplify. I am the biggest queen of short menus for patients. It's either this or this. For team members, this or this. If you want to unburden them, this is the step you take. If you don't take this step, you ask the team members, what do you add to your plate? If that patient leaves unscheduled without you talking finances, what did you just add to your workload? And once they get it, when they really, really get it, they're on it.
Yeah.
On it.
It changes their mindset. If you can uncompound these tasks, it takes so much off their plate and creates so much less stress. So if you go to Deals for Dentists, check out Shelley Renee's promo offer. Again, mention Deals for Dentists and get a complimentary revenue reveal and growth report. And Shelley also offers self-guided learning or a 3-month Kickstart coaching program. So this was awesome. And I feel like one kind of major takeaway with my time with Shelley is that you can do this and you don't have to be this stressed out. Dentistry is a very stressful profession. Dentists wear a lot of hats. And if you have the right systems in place, you can create a lot less stress in the office, be more efficient, more productive, and be happier. And that's really the name of the game in the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Shelley, thanks so much. And it was great seeing you again. Let's be in touch and see what kind of new things you have on the horizon in maybe 6 months or a year or so.
I'd appreciate that. That's excellent.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Take care, Shelley.
You too.